Hey everyone, today I have a really easy project, really quick, fun. It is a 6x6 journal, no sewing. I'm going to show you this one real quick, just a quick flip through. It's a really small one, and this one is actually for me. So I've just kind of did a crude enclosure with the knots on the outside. I liked it. Did some fabric on the seam or on the spine. You know, just did a couple things. The front is a pocket, has a tag, and so you could put another tag here. And again, I'm not showing you my embellishments. It's just basically to show you that this is a no-sew journal. This one's just for me, so I just did a little pocket here. And again, these are all additions that you can do later. I'm just going to show you how to construct the journal. And in this Christmas one, I think there's 7 or 8 pages, not very many pages. But in the fall one, the autumn one, I did 16 pages, which is 32 pages front and back, because I was thinking this would make a good December daily. Just the size of it and the fact that there's pockets, you know, you can add however many pockets. I did 3 in this small one. In the harvest one, I'll run through this one at the end with you because I want to show you some things that I learned making this one. This was my prototype, and this was my second one. And there was a few tips I have on putting this together that I think will help if you're going to do a bigger one like this. But I wanted to show you real quick. They don't have to be all 6x6. The main thing is that they're all the same height. So you can have 4x6s, you can have 3x6, whatever, as long as your height is 6 inches. See, I've put some smaller ones in here. Mix those in. I have 3 pockets in this one. Really small sheet there. I love the color, though. I thought it went well. And plus, I like how it's staggered. So, you know, I like the idea of the smaller ones. But I will show you some things I learned on this one after I show you how to construct it. Very simple. I have some 6x6 sheets here. Well, here's one I cut in half, so that's good. I'll show you how we, you know, it's all very basic. You probably know just from flipping through how to do it, but I thought I could use my leftover Christmas ones and show you how to construct it. So the only thing I used tool-wise was my nemesis, the scoreboard. And I tried doing it without the scoreboard, and if you were good at, you know, folding and doing that kind of thing, would probably be great. I'm not. You know, I have trouble if I have a ruler or, you know, a straight edge. I'm still not good at doing things straight. So I would recommend having a scoreboard, or if you don't have a scoreboard, take your ruler and, you know, dot off your little 1/4 inch, which is what all these will be. I'm sorry, 1/2 inch. Put a little dot there, a dot at the bottom. Then you could use your ruler and fold up. So, I mean, you don't, oops, sorry. So you don't have to have a scoreboard. I do, so I'm going to use it. If it's directional, you want to make sure that you're doing the correct side. So see how we're going to put these together. I'll just do probably 6, 8 of these, something. Let's see what we want our cover to be. Out of these sheets, I will probably make this my cover and do something, you know, simple like this with the Merry Christmas. This is a die cut. Maybe do a red one here. You know, again, I'm not going to go over all the ways to decorate. I'm going to give you some tips and ideas, but mainly we're just trying to show you the construction of it. So I think I'm going to make this my front, and this will be the back. So this will be my first pocket. And then I liked to do a colored one and then a plain one. That was just my preference. You can do it however. You can do two. If you have, these are also some I should have added, was this works great on single-sided 6x6. If you have double-sided, that works great too. But it just, for writing, you know, then you have a whole sheet to write. I just liked it better, especially in the Christmas one, because, you know, you can put a little bit of washi tape, do a stamp, little inking, and you have a whole page to write. And then you have this side for a pocket. So that's kind of how I did my Christmas one. Again, this one's for myself. So I made one page, you know, colored with my pocket. The other page I decorated a little bit, but kept mostly for writing. So I'm going to follow this same pattern on my next one. But again, you can use double-sided. You can do all of them however you want. This is, you know, like I said, just about the construction. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do the white and then do this one. And one thing I'll show you as we fold here in just a second, what I'm thinking, how I'm kind of choosing my colors here. So one more sheet, and then this will be our back pocket. Okay, so we're going to score each of these a 1/2 inch. Oh, I forgot I was going to put some of these shorties in there too. Okay, we can do that. We can still do that. So this is my front cover. And so on the front cover, you want to score it on the left side. So your print or whatever is that's going to be on the outside, you're going to score it on the left side. Basically left side as it's facing you, because as they lay in this stack, you're going to be like, well, they're both scored on the same side. They are, but you got to remember they're front to back. So as they're facing you, the front of the pocket will be on the left. The back of the pocket will be on the right. So the cover's going to be on the left. The sheet behind it will be on the right. And this is a directional, so I'm going to turn it upside down and score it so that it will be on the right of the page. Like so. Okay, and this is how they're going to stack. Just like this. So we're just going to keep going with that way, that because I'm putting mine, you know, white to the printed like this. And I think here I'll put one of these little short pieces like so. The thing to remember on your narrower pieces is that you're going to lose a 1/2 inch, so it makes it pretty short. I don't mind. I like the different styles, and it'll be layered. I like it, but you know, again, it's up to you. I think I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. So again, I'm going to score it 1/2 inch on the right. So basically, the only ones that you're going to score on the left is the front of a pocket, if you want to think of it that way. And the only reason it's different is because on a pocket, because you're putting two pieces back to back, you kind of are evening out your thickness in your journal. So now I'm just continuing to score and fold each one on the appropriate side and stacking them together as I'm going to get ready to glue them. Now I'm working on the back pocket. The back pocket is going to be enclosed, so you don't need a hinge to go to another page. You're done. So basically, when you make your hinges, just making them on the opposite sides because you want the thickness to kind of be distributed. It doesn't really matter which sides you put those hinges on, just as long as they're on opposite sides. The front cover matters because you need the hinge to start building your journal, but the back pocket doesn't matter. And we're done with this awful thing. Trying to describe something I'm terrible at, but I can show you and it will make sense. Okay, so here's our front cover and pocket. And I'm going to burnish these really well. You want a nice sharp edge. It just makes it lay better because what we're going to do is we're going to glue this to the hinge. And we're going to glue it down this side, across the bottom, and up this side. And that will create your front pocket. So when you put these together, you want to make sure that your spine is as even as you can get it. You want those pages to be as flush as you can get them. Same with, all the way around. If your sides, your top, your bottom, your other sides are not, we can always ink that or trim it because, a lot of times the 6x6 pads, or kits or whatever, they're not perfect 6x6. You can see there's a little bit of white right there. I would probably just ink that. There's a little tiny bit down there. Again, I would probably ink it. If any of that bothers you, you can always just cut it off at the end. Main thing is you want to get your spine to be really even. Okay, so there is our front pocket. Now we're just going to keep gluing on pages. And I think I had this shorty as my second page. And I don't really want to do that. So I got them all mixed up. I'm going to make this my second page. So again, I'm going to burnish that really well. Really want that to be as flat as I can get it. It just makes your book lay better. And you're only going to glue on this page because there's no pocket. You're just hinging it together. And we're going to glue it just like that. I found that if you take your thumbs and kind of hold them on the spine and then, take your fingers and even out the ends, it's a lot easier to get that flush. And see how good that looks? That is perfectly straight. But again, when you look like this, see, it's not. We can always trim all that later. Main thing is where it's hinged. Look how nice that looks. So we're just going to keep going like this. Then I think on my next one, I'm going to do my little short piece. And it's as easy as this. You just keep gluing, hinging your pages together. And I'm not going to bore you with watching me glue all of these together because until the back pocket, they're all exactly the same. Just make sure you're lining up your spine. I'm going to fast forward through all of this, probably cut some of it out because once you've seen 2 or 3, it's the same thing until the back page. I will say though that you really want to lay your hinges on top of each other because as your book, see how I'm taking that bone folder and running it down the spine to make sure it's straight, because if you don't lay them on top of each other as you're building, it kind of gets cattywampus. You really need to glue them and stack them like I'm going to do on this next one directly on the top. That keeps them straight. the thicker that your book gets. I'm going to go ahead and do the last pocket. And again, whichever, this is hinged on the right side, so you want your pocket on the back to be on the opposite side, just like this, because we don't need a hinge anymore. We're done. I really hope that seeing me do it takes away the confusion, because I know I don't explain things as clearly. I don't know why. My grandson says he has a hard time explaining things like that are in his head, and I think he must get it from me. Okay, so we're going to line this up. Make sure our spine is good and even. Take both fingers this way. Kind of use my thumb to make sure my spine is nice and even. Okay, so that's it. That's your book. You're done. I mean, it's that simple. Now my tips, I would say, oh, you're not done. We got to put spine on, don't we? Okay. So how I did that was I took fabric on both of mine. Just a piece of fabric. And put glue onto the spine. And you could use, this is fabric tape. Wonder if it's long enough. Not really. Okay. So let's get another piece of fabric. I actually think on this one, I'm going to use this doily. I think that's going to be pretty. If you had wide lace, that would be pretty. How I did it on my fabric was I took a piece of double-sided tape and well, actually, I guess I could do it on this too, couldn't I? I just peeled over however much I was going to need and laid down my fabric. Then, and I'm not going to use that on this. I don't think I'll like how it looks through the crochet. But for my other ones, I just laid my fabric on my double-sided tape. And then when I got ready to adhere it, I did put some glue onto the spine. I don't think that's necessary. I think the double-sided tape would have been plenty. Actually, I probably should have used Fabri-Tac on this. And I might just add a little bit of Fabri-Tac. But anyway, when I was putting on my fabric, I had, of course, the double-sided tape. And then I added a little bit of glue. Again, not necessary, but I did. Kind of overkill, probably. But I wanted to make sure that it was going to hold. So I laid it across and just folded it on both sides. Just like that. How cute is that? Okay, so I'm going to cut this. And actually, I like the look of it hanging off a little bit. So if you don't get it even, don't worry about that. And then I just took my bone folder, run it down the seam to make sure that it was on there very good. On there really good. And then, like on this one, I'll probably add a little glue here on the sides. When I used the double-sided tape, of course, my fabric had the glue on the sides, and I didn't add extra glue. I only used the double-sided tape. That easy. Isn't that cute? I love that. That is just too cute. Too cute. All right. So, on all the little edges, if they were too long, I would trim them. But you see here, they're not too long. They're good size. I mean, they're matching up. This one's a little bit tall on the top. I didn't get that one very straight. So what I would do is I'd just take my scissors and trim that. I mean, it's such a minuscule little piece that it's not going to make your book look off. It's going to be fine. And if you wanted to, you know, trim the others, you could do that as well. But look, now you have this beautiful little book. I love it. And how I did the pockets to make sure that they would be even, you could do it one of two ways. One of them, I just folded them back to back like this and cut my little notches at the top where I knew that they were the same. I also cut my eye holes the same way. For my enclosure on the eye holes, I just flipped them back to back and punched my hole. That way I knew they were exactly the same. But another way you can do the top notches, if you want notches in your pockets, is when you cut your front one, hold that together, and I just eyeballed the halfway point, went halfway down. And you can see over the top, you can kind of even it up like this. See, I can kind of tell that's where my cut needs to be even with the front. Like right about there. Like that. And then your pockets will be the same. Which, again, that's not really necessary because you have these sheets in between that are going to cover, you know, that come above your little deal. But if you want to make sure they're even, that's the way to do that. And again, I would either, on the first one, the Christmas one, I didn't do that. I just measured. It was, you know, this is 6 inches tall. So at the 3 mark, I put a hole. 3 mark, I put a hole. But you can kind of see on mine, they're just a little hair off. On the ones that I flipped them back to back, I don't know if you can tell with my ribbon on there, but they are exact. They are right on the money, even with each other. And those are the ones that, like I said, when I punched my hole, I just flipped it like this, got them even, and did my hole. So that's one tip that I would definitely do. Another thing on this one that I learned was I added some of my own tea-dyed paper. You know, a lot of these pages are scrapbook paper. I don't think you want to use real thin. You don't necessarily want to use real heavy. You know, your book will get really thick. But, you know, kind of a medium weight. If you use thin, you know, it's going to work. It's going to be fine. But on my tea-dyed paper, it was a thinner paper. And I will show you, if I can find it. Some of it was heavier like this, but I had some thinner weight. Okay, so when I put glue on the center, on the spine, I was pretty heavy-handed with the glue, and it seeped down in and kind of tore this. So I took my aged tape and just repaired it. I mean, you can't even tell it. It looks like I was just trying to decorate with aged tape. So I would just say when you're putting, if you do the overkill like I did, and you put the fabric tape and you use glue, try not to get down in there so much. Don't get as heavy-handed as I was with the glue. I mean, I used a lot. And it, like I said, it kind of seeped through. Another thing is when you make them thicker like this, after you let it dry, I kind of went through and opened all the seams up because it gets stiff. I mean, it's thick, but it lays flat. It's a beautiful book. I just really love this. Inking. You know, you could ink before you ever put this together. I didn't because I felt like I wanted to ink. For one, holding two pieces together is easier for me than inking a thin sheet. And I just laid it down on my deal here, took a brush, and, inked. It doesn't have to be perfect. Mine's grungy, so it didn't have to be perfect. Another thing, like I said, if your pages are a little bit off, can always just, well, I don't see, this one's just a smidge. I could trim this one, and it's not going to hurt a thing. It's not going to mess up anything. It's not going to look bad. And you can just trim right down through there. Take that little sliver off if it bothers you. If not, ink it. It's going to be fine. It's going to look fine. It's going to be even. It's going to be great. This is the easiest journal I've ever made. And I know that, I'm not the first one to do this. I just really wanted to use some of these beautiful 6x6 Christmas and fall papers. And I think that this is a great way to do that. And there it is. And I don't know if I'm even going to keep that this way, if this looks too much on the front or what. But how I did these, I just took crinkle seam binding and like you would pull a tag through, I put them through the hole, folded it, threaded it through the hole, and then pulled my ends through. That's an easy way to do it. You could also, if you don't like your seam binding, your closure to be on the outside, you want it to be on the inside. When you're gluing your pocket together, you would just lay your seam binding down, glue it, because you don't want it to stick up, or when you put your cards in your pocket, it's going to catch on this. So either you can just barely sew it over here or glue it, however you can make it not show. I liked the extra on the outside because it's such a small book. I didn't think it needed to be hidden. Of course, you could also do your, a journal topper and hide it underneath that. Honestly, look how well this stays together. You don't really even need a closure. You could do an elastic one that comes off. And I know this is a smaller one, but this one is, like I said, 16 pages. I was trying to see if it would work for a December daily. It sure would. And it doesn't gator mouth. It lays flat. It wouldn't need an enclosure. I just like the looks of it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned something, some good ideas. When I get these finished, I'm going to do some walkthroughs so that maybe you can get some ideas of how to do the insides of yours. Give this a try. If you've already been doing it, maybe you can tell me how you make yours. some suggestions of things that I missed, maybe. I'm sure I missed something. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.